God bless everyone, this is Lovely again. In this video, I will be discussing about human development meaning, concepts, and theories. And now, let's start. If you see human development, it is the pattern of movement or change that begins at conception and continues through the lifespan. It includes growth and decline. Development can be positive or negative. There are four major principles of human development. The first one is develop is repeatedly orderly. That human development has two patterns. The first one is proximal pattern. Development proceeds from the center of the body outward. The second pattern is cephalocaudal pattern. Development proceeds from the head downward. The second principle, while pattern of developmental is likely to be similar, the outcome of the development process and the rate of development are likely to vary among individuals. The third principle, development takes place gradually. And the last one, as development as a process is complex because it is the product of biological, cognitive, and socio-emotional process. And now let's proceed the two approaches to human development. The first one is traditional perspective, and the second one is lifespan approach. If you see traditional perspective, believes that individuals will show extensive change from birth to adolescence, little or no change in adulthood, and decline in the late old age, while lifespan approach believes that even in adulthood, developmental change takes place as it does during childhood. And what are the characteristics of lifespan development? Number one, development is lifelong. It does not end by adulthood, and no developmental stage dominates the development. And the second, development is multidimensional. Development consists of biological, cognitive, and socio-emotional dimension. Number three, development is plastic. Development is possible throughout the lifespan. Number four, development is contextual. Individuals are changing beings in changing world. And the last one, number five, development is growth, maintenance, and regulations. The growth, maintenance, and regulation are the three goals of human development. The goal of individuals vary among developmental stages. Here are the principles of child development and learning. All areas of development and learning are important. Learning and development follow sequences. Early experiences have profound effect on development and learning. Development and learning result from interaction of maturation and experience. Children develop best when they have secure relationship. Development and learning occur in and are influenced by multiple social and cultural contexts. Children learn in a variety of ways. Play is an important vehicle for developing self-regulation and promoting language, cognitive, and social competence. Development and learning advance when children are challenged. Children's experiences shape their motivation and approaches of learning. And now, let's discuss about Sigmund Freud theory. So, Let's start! Freud developed psychoanalysis, which is the study of the unconscious mind. In psychotherapy, Freud utilized a technique called free association, in which the client speaks whatever comes to mind without thinking about it. The purpose of free association is to access the unconscious processes. Freud also utilized a method known as dream analysis, where the clients would report their dreams and the content was believed to represent the client's fears and desires. Freud claimed that our minds operate in three spheres, which we can imagine as a submarine. The unconscious level operates id. The preconscious level operates superego. The conscious and preconscious levels it operates our ego. These are the three structures model of the mind. The first one is the id, or the pleasure principle, related to your natural desires like sex, eating, and so on. The second one is the superego, or moral principle, is to do what society thinks is proper, or what you believe is morally right given the situation. Finally, the ego is the reality principle that unites the id and superego to ultimately determine what you do. Sometimes you listen to your id more, and sometimes you listen to your superego more, and sometimes you compromise. Some people follow their id more than their superego. Therefore, they are more prone to express their impulses, whereas others are more likely to control their impulses and follow their superego more than their id. Sigmund Freud proposed the concept of a defense mechanism, which is when the reality principle or ego is distorted to shield oneself from worry or bad sensations caused by id impulses. Defense mechanism may be both helpful and harmful means of dealing with negative emotions. Repression was Freud's first and probably most important protective mechanism. Repression is an unconscious action the ego takes in order to keep terrible and horrible, disturbing things from becoming part of our conscious thought. Denial is another common defense strategy, yet it is still a defense mechanism. Denial is the act of obstructing awareness of some external occurrences. This is not like repression, in which they are driven into the subconscious. Denial is the deliberate and rational decision to reject these ideas and sensations, yet isn't as conscious or logical as you may assume, because the alternative is so terrible to the individuals. It practically happens on its own. The next defense mechanism is projection, which simply means that if I don't like something in myself, I'm going to deny its presence and reality about myself. But I'm going to point it out and tell you how much I despise it in other people. Another protective mechanism is displacement, which is the redirecting of an impulse. Consider the following scenario. You are at work and your superior begins shouting at you. And you can't shout back at your boss because he will fire you. So you will go home and yell at your children or your wife to deal with that unpleasant pent-up feeling, something that you can run at without fear of getting fired. Another protective mechanism is regression, which involves taking a psychological and bodily step back when confronted with stress. For example, if we were seriously injured and end up in the hospital, people have been known to pee their beds out of fear. They are kind of step back into a childlike mentally, or they might start sucking their thumb. Although this is very unusual protective mechanism, Sigmund Freud conceptualized it. Another protective mechanism is sublimation, which is similar to displacement but occurs when we are able to redirect our emotions into something more productive. This may be considered artistic. We could be painting, composing a song, carving, dancing, or doing anything else to do with our issues in a way that doesn't get us fired and doesn't harm our spouses or children like shouting at them. Our sex drive, which Freud called libido, focuses in the different erogenous zone at each phase. The phases are called oral, anal, phallic, latency, and genital. The oral, from birth to 1 year old. In the first year of our lives, we discover the world through our oral senses. Our main pleasures come from sucking on our mother's breast or a bottle. In the anal, from age 1 to 3, the primary focus of our libido at this age is the control of bladder and bowel movements. We have to learn how to use the patty. In the phallic, from age 3 to 6 years old, our libido now turns to genitals as we discover the differences between the female and the male gender. In the latency, age 7 to 13 years old. In this phase, our libido is suppressed as our sexual energy is being sublimed into developing life skills. Our superego is strengthened and we strongly identify with the social values, same-sex heroes, and friends. In the genital phase, from puberty to death, once we reach puberty, our libido starts to become active again and we develop an interest in sexual partner.